Welcome, everyone. We are happy to have you here today for DivorceTown's February event, Divorce Discovery, Rebuilding After Divorce. And I am so excited about the panel of guests that we have here for you today. It's going to be a great show. We've got a lot of people who have registered, so we may have folks coming in and out. But today I want to introduce you to my special guest. If Marcella, if you could bring everybody up on the screen for a moment so that we can all see who is here and what they're going to be talking about, and then we'll get started. So, all right. Welcome, ladies. So today we have Tracy Ann Moore Grant. She is going to be talking about the legal aspects after divorce. I'm giving you a quick synopsis here. Kathleen Schack is a therapist, and she's going to be talking from the emotional aspects. And then Brenda Dozier is a fellow CDFA, and she's going to be sharing financial aspects, all important matters that you need to know before, during, and after divorce. But today we're going to be focusing most on after, post-divorce, and what you need to know to rebuild and recover. So let's bring up our first guest. And by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm so sorry. I am Lisa Decker, and I am the founder and CEO of DivorceTown USA, the sponsor of these wonderful webinars that we're holding every month. Happy to be bringing you this informative information from some of the top professionals in the nation on these matters. And I'm also a certified divorce financial analyst at divorcemoneymatters.com. All right, Tracy Ann, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks, Lisa.
Tracy Ann Moore Grant is a partner at Patterson Moore Grant, and she's been practicing law for 18 years and also is a mediator, arbitrator, parent coordinator, and guardian ad litem. She is the founder of the wonderful Amicable Divorce Network, so happy to partner with her on this worthy cause. And she focuses her practice on uncontested and amicable divorce and resolution-focused representation. And she can share a little bit more about that. And so, Tracy Ann, welcome. Such a pleasure to always have you on any event that we have. And I'm going to give you the floor now. And Marcella, if you would take me away. So Tracy has the whole floor here. I appreciate it.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you, Lisa, for that introduction. Yes, I am a family law attorney. I have been practicing for 18 years. My law firm is Patterson Moore Butler, which is in Cumming, Georgia. But I also have transitioned my focus in my family law practice to uncontested and amicable divorces and other family law matters, and reaching resolution through low conflict means. My experience and the statistics show that only 5% of cases actually go to litigation. And so I believe passionately in actually paying for and getting the representation towards settling your case, as opposed to overpaying and increasing conflict for a case that is never going to go to court. So that's what I'm all about. I have other attorneys in my office that do the high conflict cases, but I've transitioned my practice towards resolution focus. The presentation today is, so you're divorced, what do you do now? And so in regards to this, a lot of people I have found usually come to me. Sometimes they need issues handled after their divorce, and maybe they were represented by somebody else and have come to me, and I've just noticed, their previous attorney just really didn't tell them what to do. Getting divorced is actually the first step for getting yourself on the right footing for your future. So in regards to what do you do now that you're divorced, there's a couple of different categories on how to protect yourself and how to move forward properly. The first category is financially. So one thing that people need to know is just to make a list and to just check it off one by one, going through each of your insurances to make sure that you no longer, first of all, have a family coverage plan. I have often seen people agree in a settlement agreement that they are going to perhaps maintain the car insurance under their current policy until the end of the year or something of that nature. That just isn't possible, and people really do not understand that. At the time that you get divorced, you need to change your insurances across the board. That includes car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, things of that nature. The reason is that if you are getting that insurance under any sort of marital status, bundling perhaps with assets like the home, and maybe you don't have the home anymore, or you're getting a discount for multiple people on the policy, and or the status of being married, your insurance company can actually use that as a reason to deny coverage should you have a claim. So if you get divorced, for example, on June 1st, and get into an accident on July 15th, and you have not separated out that car insurance policy, insurance companies are going to use anything that they can to deny that claim. So you don't want to give them any reason to do that. Make sure that you're also doing what you need to do in regards to your health insurance for the same reasons. There's different protections in place for that with COBRA and going in onto the open market and things of that nature. But you can't stay on a family policy once the divorce happens because you are no longer qualified as that family coverage. So do take those things seriously because the repercussions can be quite severe should you actually need to utilize that insurance. Remember all of your financial accounts that you have, all of your investments, everything from your Bank of America checking account to an E-Trade account. Across the board, generally, when you sign up for a new financial account, and it may have been so many years ago that you don't remember, you are required to list a beneficiary on that account. Those do not automatically revoke upon divorce in any way. There is no way for Bank of America or any financial institution to be monitoring people's marital status or who they want their beneficiaries to be. So take a minute. Most likely, if you've gone through a divorce, you've recently filled out some sort of financial disclosure that probably listed all of these items, so you already have a head start. And just plug away at it. Call each one and change that beneficiary to somebody you want it to be, which is normally not your past spouse. Now, do remember in some situations, parties do have an obligation to maintain life insurance for the benefit of their former spouse, whether that is to cover life insurance for alimony or for child support. So obviously make sure that you are still meeting the requirements for that court-ordered obligation. But in regards to anything up and above that, make sure that you are covering anything and everything. If you work for a company that offers you benefits, often you have forgotten that sometimes as a benefit of your employment, your employer has offered you a life insurance policy. Sometimes these are rather small in value and are just bundled in with your benefits. Sometimes, you know, $15,000, $20,000, something like that. Don't forget those small policies as well. And it could be worth your time to just sit down with your company's human resources, ask them what all your benefits are. It's fine to disclose to them your new marital status and ask for their help, at least on the employment side, to help you make sure that you tie up all loose ends. That is just something you wouldn't want for you to unfortunately untimely pass, and for all of your assets that you just spent so much time dividing and figuring out passing to your former spouse just automatically because these loose ends weren't tied up. So the next area is how to protect yourself for your future. Always across the board, I send my clients a letter that says what to do now that you're divorced. The first slide, that information was obviously included in there, but you're going to see in bold letters in that letter that my clients get from me, get a new last will and testament. Most people, number one, don't have one at all, or they have one that was done during the time that they were married. or it was perhaps even done in another state. Or your children, some of them may not have been born. There's lots of different reasons and circumstances, but getting a divorce is an absolute line in the sand time for you to sit down with somebody and get a new will. There's also ancillary documents that go with a will. Maybe it's a power of attorney or a durable power of healthcare. Who is going to make the decisions in the event that you're on life support and make those tough calls? Most likely, if you did this document when you were married, your former spouse is listed as this person. Simply because you're divorced, certain terms are not revoked. And so you would certainly hate for them to be in charge of these life-saving decisions of you during this time, especially if your case was contentious. You definitely don't want them to be in charge. And so it is important to sit down. You also, at this point in time, should have a very clear view of your assets and debts and things that you're taking on and that you've received during the divorce case. They probably even have really good values at this point in time. You know how much your accounts are worth, your home, your policies, things of that nature. So there's never a better time to sit down with a professional and to get these documents in place. Also make sure that this new will is reflective of your obligations. So for example, if you have an obligation to provide the life insurance for the minor children for their benefit, to cover a child support obligation, or to cover it for the benefit of a former spouse for an alimony obligation. Sometimes you have to cover it for a mortgage. There's many different reasons. Maybe you're also in charge of preparing or planning for college expenses. Make sure that your new will is reflective of these obligations and takes all of these into account. There's absolutely no harm, and it would be a good rule of thumb to take your divorce paperwork to your estate planning attorney and make sure that they have all that information so that they can properly assist you with making sure that this new documentation reflects your current situation, identifies everything that you have and what you want to do with it, and also is compliant with what might be in a divorce court order. A lot of times, and we have this at our firm, we do many different areas of law. And so we offer our clients a discount to get a new will and to get these new documents when they've just gotten divorced. And so if you have utilized a firm that offers this service, or even if you're not sure, I would ask, because a lot of people, unless they're a sole practitioner by themselves, and even then they may handle that type of law as well. But a lot of them may do this as part of your representation, and it may just be much easier to walk the documents down the hall and have that finished up. Don't assume that a firm would do that automatically, because normally it is different people and a different cost, but definitely could probably get all of that handled at one stop if possible. The next, how to protect yourself in the future. A lot of people do get remarried. I'm on not my first marriage, so I'm definitely there with everybody. So it's also a good rule of thumb. Hopefully you're a little older and a little wiser after this divorce. Get a prenuptial agreement if you choose to get married again. A lot of people think that's very unromantic, but something to think about when you went through this divorce process is there's normally different phases to a divorce. I would say the very first phase is the gathering of information, identifying what the parties have, what is there of this marriage. There's a home. What's the value? There are these accounts. What are the value? Whose are they? And so when you have a prenuptial agreement, at a minimum, you're identifying what assets and debts existed at the time of marriage. What a prenuptial agreement also does is says what we're going to do with those items in the event we get a divorce, and what is our plan for the items that we get while we're married together. Let's go ahead and talk about those issues, and let's go ahead and decide what those things are. But when you take the time to identify what those types of issues are, what your assets are, what your debts are, should a divorce result from your second marriage. And I wanted to note here, 67% of second marriages end in divorce. So it's a higher rate than the first marriage. You're taking a ton of attorney's fees and work out of the picture, if not all of it, by everybody following the prenup and deciding what it is that you have already determined you wanted to do with your assets and debts and following that plan. So a lot of people have this presumption that it just is not romantic. It makes you set up for failure. I actually would encourage people to think of it very differently. I think it is a full disclosure to your significant other and soon-to-be spouse of exactly what your financial situation is. It is a very respectful way to give that full disclosure. It is a very mature discussion to say, you know, obviously we love each other because we're getting married, but we're realistic about the world and relationships. And should a divorce result, I don't want to fight with you. I don't want us to spend extra money in conflict to, you know, go through this process. You know, let's love each other enough now to go ahead and plan that should that happen in the same way that we plan for death with a last will and testament, let's plan that this may happen to us and how it is that we want to handle it, because I respect you enough to want that process to be as good as it could be for each party. Generally speaking, I charge a flat fee for a prenup. It's $1,200. Other attorneys, depending on the complexity of the case, usually charge the same. And I think across the board, if you ask any divorce attorneys how much in attorney's fees somebody would spend just to identify the assets and debts in a marriage, how many hours of attorney time that takes, how much work on behalf of the client, you would see that the benefit of doing this type of document on the front end would be incredibly beneficial should a divorce result. Also, it's good to make sure you're not getting any surprises. As a divorce attorney, I'm hearing all of the time that people were surprised by their spouse having a large amount of debt, perhaps a particular debt that they were unaware of, or not fully understanding, you know, the assets or what they were getting into. And this way, that really doesn't happen. You're entering into a marriage with full transparency, which again is a very respectful and informed way to enter into such an important relationship and move forward in a positive way.
Hey, Tracy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a 5-minute heads up here, just
Perfect.
So give everybody else all their time. Okay, thank you.
So the last area is to protect yourself, is your to-do list for your protection moving forward. So first, I'm sure everybody has social media, everybody has bank accounts, we're always on our phones logging in. And so make sure that you take a moment, if you haven't already done so in your divorce process, to change your passwords across the board. Also remember that your former spouse knows you best. They could probably answer those security questions for you. So you might want to go in and change. They're going to know your mother's maiden name. They're going to know your hometown. They're going to know your first car, all of those common ones that the banks use. So sometimes you have the option to create your own. So you might want to do that with something that they would not know, and also make your password something totally new that you guys never used as a couple, not your kids' names, not your pets' names, not something like that. Make sure that it is something totally fresh. And the very last piece of advice that I can give you is to, unfortunately, always prepare as if there might be another case against you, or that you have to bring yourself in the future. It doesn't take a lot of time to keep those emails, perhaps make a new folder in your email, just dump them in there so that you have them for the future. There's tons of computer programs online that you can download where you can back up your actual text messages so that you have a record of those and they don't bog down your phone. You can actually unload them so that you always have them. Always keep a calendar. Just jot down, whether it's digitally or on paper, dates, times, somebody was late, payment was late, argument about such and such, because memories fade. And it's so hard to remember even a couple of years in the future. What year did that even happen in? I remember that. But if you have a good record, you're also saving yourself a ton in attorney's fees. Paper always wins. In cases, people that have the documentation and have the details, and an ounce of preparedness always saves a ton of money, both in this area and with the prenuptial agreement. So that's all that I have. I hope that those tips are helpful to help you move forward legally in the best way possible after divorce.
Well, as always, Tracy, you bring a value amount of information, a priceless amount of information, really to help people avoid future issues and save a lot of money in this process, and also a lot of angst. There's not a price that we can put to our mental state. And so thank you for that. And next up, we are going to hear from Kathleen Shack. And Kathleen has been in the network and a valued colleague of mine for many years. She's been in private practice for over 20 years. She holds sessions and mediations with clients in her office and online. And she is an experienced licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified discernment counselor. I just learned what that is recently. Kathleen, please share that with everyone. I think that is so valuable. A certified Gottman therapist, a divorce coach, and a registered divorce mediator. She wears a lot of hats and she wears them all well. Kathleen helps people find inner strength and gives them tools which they can use to navigate their relationships and their world. And she also leads divorcing individuals towards resolution of issues, works with parents to develop parenting plans, and provides insights to parents regarding their child's needs before, during, and after divorce. I'm sorry. I'm a little tongue twisted here this morning. So Kathleen, that's a lot of work you're doing there. Welcome to the call. And I am going to step off and let you take over from here.
Okay, thank you. I'm so happy to be here talking with you guys today. And I get to talk about a fun topic that also can sometimes be stressful. So I'm going to be focusing on dating after divorce. And this is going to be a fun presentation in terms of the hope that people have and exciting times coming ahead, and also to try to address some of the stressful things that might contribute to what you might be feeling as you're trying to wade through the dating process and figure out which apps to use. So before I get started, let me introduce a little bit more about myself. As Lisa said, I am a therapist and a divorce coach. I also do divorce mediation, and I do discernment counseling. And what discernment counseling is a time for couples where maybe one or both partners is leaning out of the relationship. It's a time for them to talk through whether or not they want to head towards separation and divorce, or head towards maybe 6 months of couples counseling to see if they can save the relationship. And I do have a presentation that I've done for the Amicable Divorce Network that y'all can find on their website about that. But looking at dating after divorce, the biggest component to think about is looking at yourself before you look for somebody else. So you want to get into counseling, and you want to make sure that you're in a space where you want to date versus you need to date. So you don't want to be filling a void. You want to be in a place where you've finished up your emotional business with your ex. You've reflected on your contribution to issues in the past relationships. And that's going to help you figure out who you are, what are some things that you want, what are some qualities that are going to be really important for you to look for in a future dating partner. And it's important for you to get to a place where you can believe that you deserve to be happy, and that you can maintain hope even through the ups and downs of dating, and even through the emotional turmoil that you may have been through from your divorce. And you want to be open-minded. So you want to just get yourself in a healthy place so that you're able to really go after what you want and know where your boundaries are, know where your deal breakers are. And this is where we get into watching out for red flags. If you're in a healthy place, it's going to be much easier for you to watch out for red flags, because you'll know what you're looking out for. And a counselor can help you identify some of these. So you want to be aware of whether the other person seems too perfect. Do they seem like everything is just lining up way too easily? The pressing too hard in terms of trying to get you involved with them, or are they taking up all of your time? So that might equal a controlling person, that might equal a codependent person. So you want to make sure that you're also trying to connect with somebody who is in an emotionally healthy place. Are they trying to get too serious too fast? Those would be big red flags. And a good thing to look at is, how does this date that you're talking to treat other people, particularly people that are sort of waiting on you or serving you for different things? So waiters, clerks at the bank, clerks at different places. You want to look at, how do they treat Uber drivers? How do they treat other drivers? Do they seem to have road rage, or do they seem to be respectful of other people? Do they seem to be patient? You want to look for the qualities that you would want in terms of how are they going to be treating you. And a lot of what you can tell about people is how they treat others by being really observant. Be cautious about fireworks, because fireworks will fizzle out. So you don't want to be fooled by all the chemistry and the fireworks that are happening in the beginning. Those are great and those are fun. You also want to make sure there's more substance behind those initial fireworks and that initial chemistry, because as we know in relationships, the fireworks and the chemistry will start to fade out over time, and you really want somebody that can be a long-term companion and someone who has many qualities that are going to be there for you throughout the rest of your time. An important thing to think about is, keep it to 2 drinks on a date. You want to be able to be present and alert. You want to be able to notice how the other person's behaving. That's another good thing to look at too, is, are they able to stop once they start drinking, or does it seem like they don't stop? So that's a good way for you to be able to stay present and be noticing things around you if you're able to keep it to 2 drinks. Another component is wait to have sex. So you don't want to necessarily have sex on the first date, because you want the other person to be trying to date you for the right reasons, and you want them to see that you are being respectful of them, and you would expect them to be respectful of you. And you also want to make sure that whenever you do get around to having sex with that person, that you're practicing safe sex. So that might be time to go back and look at birth control options, or look at other ways to practice safe sex, so that you don't end up with some consequences you weren't counting on. The biggest piece, and I almost put this in all caps on my slide, is trust your gut. So if something just doesn't feel right, if it feels too perfect, or if it feels kind of creepy, or if it feels like things just aren't adding up, pay attention to that and walk the other way, because there's going to be many, many, many options for people that you can date in this world. And if it doesn't seem right, you don't want to be spending your time with that person. That gets us to maintaining your high standards. So counseling is going to help you figure out what your standards are. And hopefully also you're going to be able to maintain those standards and not cave in because of the fireworks or different things that happen. So you want to look for quality in somebody that you're going to be dating. You want to take your time. You want to be patient with yourself. You want to remember what's important to you and look at who brings out the best in you. Do you like the person you are when you're with this person? Or do you start to dislike the things that you're saying or the things that you're doing? Are you compromising too much when you're with this person, compromising your values maybe? You want to look for commonalities, and these are really, really important, because as Tracy Ann was pointing out, there's a 67% divorce rate for second marriages, and you want someone who's going to be hand in hand with you throughout a relationship. So you want to look at, what are your goals? Do you have common goals? Are you in the same phase of life? So you want to look for somebody who's relatively close to you in age, someone who is potentially a single parent. If you're a single parent, someone who maybe has children so they can understand the ins and outs of what it may take for a blended family. You definitely want to have some hobbies in common, because you want to have activities that you guys are going to be able to do with each other long term. And location is really important. I know that some people will open up their dating pool to the whole country, And I think it's a very important thing to look at in terms of you may not want to ever move from where you're living. That other person may not want to move from where they're living. Or if you guys have children, you can't move from where you're living for a long amount of time. So you don't necessarily want to have your dating pool be open to the whole country. You may want to keep it within the same state, or maybe even within a certain geographic area within that state, so that it takes out a lot of complications that could happen in the future if neither one of you are able or willing to relocate. You want to, again, maintain your boundaries, maintain your deal breakers, and again, trust your gut. If it seems like that person keeps crossing your boundaries, then that's going to be a deal breaker, and you need to really look at, is this going to be the best person for you? So meeting and mingling, you want to, again, look for quality versus quantity. So sometimes when people are first out in the dating world, they're going for the quantity piece in terms of just sowing their wild oats for a while, or seeing what other people are like, just trying to meet a whole lot of different people, sometimes living their adolescence all over again or living their 20s all over again. And that's okay. But when you start looking for who might you want to settle down with and be with long term, the quality is the most important part. So again, we look at those commonalities of how many things do y'all have in common? Do y'all have kids or not? You want to research different dating sites, because different sites specialize in different people. So you might have, single people who are over 50, or you might have people who are single parents, or different situations that there may now be a dating site that fits your exact situation. So you may not want to waste your time on some of the other sites. So do a lot of research. Talk to your friends and other single people who have used some of the sites, and really pick the ones that are going to be best for you. You want to allow time for chemistry to grow with somebody. So you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You want to be understanding about what that person's going through and how they're also dealing with the excitement, but also the stresses of being out in the dating world. And sometimes looking at how long have you guys been divorced is an important thing, because you guys might find that once you've been in the dating pool longer, you know some of the ins and outs, and it's easier to adjust, or you kind of get used to changing around who you're going to be dating and changing around which dating site you're going to be on. So be understanding of what the other person might be going through. Maintain a lot of hope, even through breakups and sadness, because we know breakups and sadness are going to happen. It's not all going to be exciting roses and great times. So you want to be able to maintain that hope. Go to counseling if you need to help through this phase of life. Above everything else, have fun, even though I've given you lots of things to think about in terms of things to look out for, but you want to have fun. And something to think about if you have children is you want to wait to introduce a long-term dating potential person to the kids for at least 6 months. So you want it to be somebody that you're invested in, that they are invested in you, that you guys really think this is going somewhere. This seems like a serious relationship. It's somebody you want the kids to know and start to bond with and connect with. So that's why you want to wait at least 6 months before introducing the kids, so that they're not trying to get used to different people and attaching to people and then having those people leave. So take your time, wait to talk to the kids and tell them about this person. And above all else, try to have fun. So that's my presentation about dating after divorce. And I hope that it gives you guys some great things to think of in terms of looking out for red flags, but also some of the fun things to think about in terms of figuring out who you are and what you want in a relationship and what you need.
And Kathleen, those are spot on. And I see people do it a lot. It's a hurtful time. You want to get back out there. You want your heart to feel good again. You want to feel wanted, and people get involved with another relationship right away, and then things go south. And especially when it comes to the kids, as you talked about, it's the idea to wait a while before you introduce your children to someone new in your life. I wanted to add another point as well, in that, especially about being careful and trusting your gut. I've had clients who have been preyed upon. There are people out there who look for legal notices of divorce filings and actually follow people on social media, and then they arise in your life all of a sudden, and they know that you've just divorced. You probably have a good settlement. It's been very sad to see people who have been a victim of that, and so be very, very careful out there. You may even, if you get very serious about someone, run a background check on them, and make sure that what you're being told by this person is the reality. You only have to watch TV these days to see the scammers and spammers out there that are targeting people, and realize that, oh my gosh, this really can happen. So just be careful, be aware, and do have fun. But the instincts of our gut is a good thing to go upon. We are having some technical issues, unfortunately, with Brenda. So we're waiting for her to sign back on. And if you want to come back on, Tracy Ann, and see if we have anybody who wants to ask any questions. I think Tracy Ann also did a fantastic job of talking about the financials here, handling the financials. I also give a checklist to clients on the things that must be followed up after, because, a lot of people are divorced. That's done, it's behind me. But if you don't follow through on these very important matters, you may have more things to deal with and unintended consequences. And as Tracy had talked about, your will really does supersede the beneficiaries. Or excuse me, your beneficiary supersedes your will. So, if you have, your will is saying, you haven't changed your will, and your beneficiaries are saying something else, whatever the beneficiaries designate, that's what the companies are going to go by. They're not going to get involved in your legal matters and the details of your divorce. So it is vitally important that you follow up on those things. And another thing would be a Quadro, making sure that if you are to divide a pension plan or a 401k or any kind of qualified plan, that you have your attorney do this very important legal matter, which is the qualified domestic relations order, and making sure that you're going to get the funds that you've been promised. So there's all kinds of things that go on in the background here. And we want to make sure that you get the benefit before, during, and after your divorce to get them, come out of this in the best way possible, rebuild, recover, and go on and enjoy the next chapter of your life. I am not seeing Brenda having logged on here. Marcella, this is the joy of live.
Hello, sorry. I'm on the phone with Brenda now. She's not able to connect. Okay. So I didn't know if you wanted me to bring her slides up.
That's
because you can certainly talk to this subject as well.
Absolutely. Let's do that, because she put some great effort into this. So Brenda Dozier is with MoneyWise Divorce, and let me read her bio here. She is also a certified divorce financial analyst, a trained therapist, a divorce coach, and author, specializing in helping individuals navigate the complex and emotional financial realms of divorce. At MoneyWise Divorce, her team understands that each person is unique in the way that he or she copes, and it can be hard for someone to completely shift their lifestyle and their work. And they work with clients to help them create a vision for their new life, a post-divorce life where they are able to move forward with financial security. So she has walked the path of divorce firsthand and knows the raw emotions involved. And she knows that one must be able to grieve before making legal and financial decisions. And sometimes you don't get a lot of time to do that grief process. So you want to work with, people who understand and can help you while you're in emotionally fragile state. And so she works in partnership with divorce attorneys to make sure all the financial assets are included in the process, and that the divorcing individual will be able to meet their budgetary needs long after the divorce is final. So we're going to put everyone's contact information in the chat box for those who are watching now or later, and you can reach out to Brenda and find out more information. So let me go through. I'm glad, if it was going to be anyone, it's someone I can help speak to what they've got on the slides here. She would be talking about budgeting and post-divorce finances. So let's continue here. And so divorce during the pandemic crisis. Couples in the midst of divorce or those who have already reached a settlement, COVID-19 can affect everything from living arrangements, parenting, and all finances. We have definitely seen that in the past year. And this is the first time I'm seeing these slides, folks, so excuse me for reading. I'm doing this on the fly. Logistics around the parenting plan may require an unusual need for flexibility. So what if one parent adheres to social distancing and the other doesn't? That's a very interesting scenario, and Tracy Ann and I have talked about that. What happens when one parent is quarantined? How does limited or closed family courts impact the process? The amicable divorce attorneys are working very creatively to solve their clients' needs concerning the ongoing needs of the children and doing a great job. And these are great questions to pose, and maybe Tracy Ann can follow up in the time that we have left and give us some more insight on some of the legalities of that. And the financial issues triggered by the pandemic. Well, we have the potential for gains and losses because we have had income volatility. You know, what if one of the parents was laid off or furloughed? That's happened to a lot of folks. Stock market swings have been extreme, and there are liquidity challenges which decrease the emergency funds. So what do you do? Well, you may have to be building a contingency child support and or alimony schedule into your settlement. This would decrease the need to go back to court to ask for modification. Great point. Work closely with your divorce financial planner to design a post-divorce lifestyle that can withstand income fluctuations amid the unpredictable times. And investment decline due to market volatility is another big thing that we've been seeing clients deal with. Comparing and dividing marital assets is a very complex process. And working with a CDFA to analyze all of that in light of the tax consequences on the retirement accounts, the taxable investment accounts, your earning power, your future potential growth, and your transaction costs and liquidity. So you want to split accounts equally to allow both spouses to have the same gain and loss potential. And I think Brenda has joined us. Brenda, are you here?
I'm trying to be, but I don't know that you can hear me.
Well, yes, we can hear you. So
Okay.
I've read a couple of responses.
I've gone to 3 different computers now. I don't know what's going on.
Goodness. Well, we're glad you were able to make it back in. And so can you see the screen? There you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That is so strange. I'm not going to try to diagnose this problem. I'm not a tech person, but it sounds like you were doing a great job. You can carry on if you want to.
No.
I don't know that it's going to let me change the screen.
Well, I can do that for you.
Because I don't have it up like it's not coming up like it was before. Sorry, attendees.
Oh, you know what? This is being flexible in the age of COVID. So it is perfectly sound with what's going on in the world today and in light of the presentation that you're giving. So it just shows that we all have to have some flexibility in these times.
Exactly. And my presentation is for before the divorce, during the divorce, and after the divorce, because I want everyone to know that if you did not bring on a certified divorce financial analyst during the divorce process, you could be running into a lot of these things because of the pandemic. It's not too late to go out and find a financial expert like a CDFA to talk through these things and really see if there were changes, and to work with that person, that CDFA, with the attorney to see how you can modify things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So looking at that contingency plan, I've talked to several people who have had to go back and talk with their ex about some of these issues because one of them was furloughed and they can't make child support. They can't make alimony, and really helping these parents really understand that they may have to be more flexible with the parenting plan as well, not just about the finances. And helping them understand what's available out there. You know, are they a small business person and can they apply for some PPP help or other type of loan and that kind of thing. So I know I'm going all over the map since I got distracted with this presentation, but that's okay. We're still on this slide. Just knowing that the pandemic has a real impact on whether you're already divorced or you're still going through it. So let's go ahead and look at the next slide, Lisa, because yeah, it's not letting me change slides at all.
There you go. But I do want to add one thing.
Sure.
You know, you cannot just go and modify those things on your own.
No.
Go through an attorney. So
That's why I said let the CDFA work with your attorney to see if you can modify some of those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to step off and let you take over because you're doing a good job here. And we're close on time. So I'm sorry, Brenda, but we might have to speed things up.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I can make this quick. I just can't do the slides. So you'll have to do that for me.
Okay. No problem.
But with looking at this, you know, one of the most difficult things to do is to prepare that post-divorce budget. A lot of people do not want to do a budget. They don't want to be controlled by how much money can I spend, but you have to have it. So if you did a budget before divorce, it's time to revisit that and to make sure that you are in the black. In other words, you're not spending more than you make. So make sure your cash flow is good. And also to reanalyze now all the assets that have been divided. And Tracy did a really good job with talking about changing beneficiaries. The same thing as making sure the titles and the names on all your assets and all your liabilities are correct at this point. So you can go ahead and change the slide, Lisa. I think we're wrapping it up. This is the role of a certified divorce financial analyst. So if you have to bring one on after your divorce is final, this is great because that individual will work with your attorney if anything has to be modified, like we mentioned before. It's important to look at your short-term planning right after the divorce and then start focusing on the long-term planning. I am not only a certified divorce financial analyst, I am a retirement income certified professional and a financial planner. So my clients often move their assets to me on the other side of my business with MoneyWise Retirement. And that's where we really focus on doing some long-term planning about what you're going to need in the future. So I'm going to bring this to a halt and let the administrators get back on. And my apologies again for the craziness in this computer debacle I had today.
We're glad you made it back on, Brenda. That was great information. And we've had a lot of valuable information here today. I hope everyone has enjoyed this. Now, I want to answer a few questions here. Tony has asked, could you explain what a qualified domestic relations order or Quadro is? Tracy, I'll let you speak to that if that's okay.
Sure. So if you are dividing in particular a 401k, a pension, these are the ones we see most often. You need a qualified domestic relations order in order, first of all, for it to be divided, but secondly, for it to not be a taxable event. So if you are dividing a 401k pursuant to a divorce action, it is not taxable to the party that is receiving those funds, and it's not a tax consequence to the person that's transferring the funds, so long as you do a Quadro. It has to be done post-divorce because you have to have that final judgment and decree date. And the judge has to sign it and approve it. It goes to a plan administrator. It is a little bit of a tedious process, and every company from Fidelity to private companies across the board has a different process. So often we get hired just to do somebody's Quadro. The appropriate price point, I'll say, is $1,000 or less, depending on the complexity of the Quadro that you pay the attorney to do. Sometimes there's fees associated with the plan administrator. I have unfortunately seen attorneys recently quoting people up to $2,500 for Quadros. That's an inappropriate cost. So definitely, if that's something that you're needing, get a couple of quotes.
Thank you, Tracy. And one quick follow-up. He asked, is a Quadro an absolute component of every divorce settlement? And no, I would add as well that, it applies to qualified funds. So if you've got a pension plan or 401k or a 403b or something that is qualified. IRAs don't fall under that. Then you will need a Quadro if the account is to be split. As CDFAs, we many times will try to even accounts out within the retirement segment of your balance sheet so that we don't have to even split one of those accounts if possible. It's not always possible, but we try to reduce the Quadro fees when we can. Let's see here. June G says, in a high conflict gray divorce, what factors are important in choosing whether to keep the marital home? Well, that's a loaded question, and I'll speak to that. And Brenda, feel free to chime in here. You know, it's not just about the home. It's whether you can afford it after the fact, whether you can afford to maintain it. Do you need cash flow? Can you keep up with all of the maintenance on the home? You know, homes are big ticket items and they do have to be maintained, or you can lose value in the home, or you can be cited by your HOA and have to, you know, fix things that you don't have money for. So there's a lot surrounding that. Has it been properly assessed, and are there repairs to be made in the process so that you don't end up finding hidden things like a mold issue or a foundation problem, or being hit with replacing a costly roof or an air conditioner. So we do assessments on that. I'm also a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce to look at those things prior to making any settlement offers or accepting any settlement offers, so that we know the ins and outs of that question in advance. And Brenda, do you want to add anything?
I would like to just say the other part that I think may be obvious to some and not to others is how much of the desire to keep that marital home is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's always a big one that we have to go through. And I have found over time not to push someone in the direction of just giving up on the marital home, but to help keep things slow enough during the divorce that they can go through that rough emotional time. And what I find is toward the end, the client is the one who comes back to me and says, I can't afford to keep this house. Mm. You know, so I think the emotional component is very big there to let them go through that before just jumping into the finances. The finances are critical, but we want to ride that roller coaster with them for a bit first. So
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tracy?
Yeah, somebody else, as a certified divorce lending professional, can also weigh in on exactly, you know, an equity buyout. You know, what is it going to look like from a financial standpoint for the financing piece? So it's called a certified divorce lending professional. There's only a few in Georgia, but they understand from a divorce settlement standpoint and can actually kind of crunch those numbers, you know, to see, would you qualify for this mortgage on your own? What does your divorce settlement need to look like for me to qualify you? And sometimes it's not a matter of, you know, maybe you don't have the choice. Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that you're not signing a settlement agreement that you can't get the financing for. I see that happen a lot. Not with my clients, but people come to me because they're trying, you know, somebody's trying to hold them in contempt. And it's like, you guys signed up for something that wasn't practical from a mortgage standpoint. So here we are. How do we figure this out?
Yes. And it's much more costly on the other end to undo some of those things if they can be undone at all. So people may be forced into a sale. Great points, ladies. Okay, so let's see. Hourly price range for hiring a CDFA. It depends. You know, reach out to any of us and we can give you our price ranges or flat fees, however the case may be. I tend to work on a flat fee. I don't know if you want to speak to that now, Brenda, or you just would like people to reach out to you. I think that's something you should reach out personally on.
I do. I think it is very personal and individualized. I work more on a flat fee basis, and that's going to depend on the complexity. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Yeah. Oh. You don't want to generalize something that has to be individualized.
Right. There are far too many variables for that to be quoted in a situation like this. And so let me see, I'm trying to make sure I've got We've got a question from Mark. How binding are prenuptials and can it be undone by a judge? Well, that's definitely a legal question, Tracy.
If it's done properly, it should be a binding contract, just like anything else. You can't prenup children, so to speak. So the judge always has jurisdiction to determine what's in the best interest of children that you might have during your marriage. Obviously, generally, you don't have those in a prenup anyway. But there's always changing law in Georgia, which is very frustrating with prenups, changing the requirements. So when I do one, I always tell people going above and beyond. The law is here right now in regards to disclosure and signatures and witnesses. So we're going to do even more in case the law changes 5 years from now. So if it's done properly, it's a binding contract, just like any other type of contract, and should be enforced. The main aspects of that are disclosure. A lot of people, when I see a prenup, sometimes haven't disclosed the financial piece at all. I do a lot of attachments with mine to make sure that that is fully disclosed and under oath, even when not required, and extra witnesses, even when not required, and lots of time to reflect on it, even when not required. So, definitely consult with somebody that has a lot of experience in this area if that's something you're looking for.
Yes, again, this is very personalized nature, and there's no one size fits all for this, and you want to work with someone experienced with that. There's no sense in going through all of that and then having it fall apart on the other side. Let's see, we've got someone asking about, can you give or receive a quit claim deed if there is a HELOC? I am not sure on a HELOC. I would imagine, but I will say this. Anything that your name is attached to, if you are liable on that HELOC or a second mortgage or a first mortgage, I would not sign a quit claim until your name has been removed from that mortgage. So, and when they do a refinance or when the house is sold or the note is paid off, that's when you do a quit claim. Otherwise, you owe on something you no longer own, and you've given up your ability to negotiate and hold any leverage over the person. So that's what I would tell you on that. That was a private question, by the way, so in case others aren't seeing that. How about pets and who gets to keep them?
I actually did an article on that.
Okay, well, speak to that one, Tracy.
And I'm a very passionate dog owner myself, but they're considered to be property. I had a very contested case over a Shih Tzu. And we went to court and had to prove one party or the other had greater ownership over the dog. And the other party, unfortunately, came to court with lots of photos of them and the dog in matching outfits, and proof that they had taken the dog to the vet and signed the receipts, had done the training classes, and not the spouse that I represented. And so Pookie was awarded to the other party, unfortunately, but it is just like any other piece of property in Georgia. Unfortunately, there are some laws that are making changes about that. There are some states that are doing animal visitation and things of that nature. We don't have that in Georgia. We are very far behind on those types of things in Georgia. I don't see that coming. So for the foreseeable future, it's unfortunately pets are treated the same way as we would a couch or any other piece of property.
Wow, that's interesting. And
some parties want to get creative with it, which I've certainly done in cases and as a mediator. But the judge's hands would be tied to treat this like, how am I going to divide up a piece of property? So,
well, ladies, this has been great. Thank you all so much. I think we've answered all of the questions here. And anybody want to add any further last words? Kathleen, did you have anything to add to any of those questions there?
I don't think so, since most of them seem to be financial and legal questions. I'm just listening and absorbing it all.
It's a lot to take in. And this is why you need a team, folks. Divorce, right. Not any one of us professionals can handle our personal aspects, but you get the best results when you have a team, a minimum of legal, emotional, and financial experts in the arena of divorce who can help you to get through this in the best way possible and without destroying your family, because that's what we're here about at DivorceTown, and that's what we partner with, Amicable Divorce. So it is my pleasure and honor again to have you here today, and feel free to reach out. Of course, I'm getting a scam call right as this is coming through. Reach out to any of the professionals here in our, we have the contact information in the chat. We'll also be sending a follow-up email with a link to this, and you can find all of us at DivorceTownUSA.com. And we hope you'll join us again next month. Marcella, can you tell us what next month's topic is, please?
Absolutely. Next month, we will be discussing how to co-parent sanely and successfully.
Another great topic, so you don't want to miss this. All right, everyone, enjoy your day and the rest of your week, and stay safe out there. Take care.
Thanks, Lisa. Good to see you, Kathleen and Tracy. Thank you so much, Lisa. Good to see you.
Okay, bye-bye now.